Hi, I'm Robbie Bobby. The title of this video is The Inner Child Steps, Part 3, and we'll continue looking at ACA's official, unofficial steps. The ACA Fellowship refers to them as the Tony A Steps. Tony A referred to them as the ACOA 12 Steps of Recovery. I refer to them as the Inner Child Steps. Let's first recap the prior video. In step 1, we admit to being powerless over the effects of living with alcoholism. And what exactly are these effects? Well, simply put, the effects are the 14 traits as outlined in the laundry list, as well as the distorted thinking that our ACA traits are simply who we are, that we were born this way. Also, that we somehow never quite measure up to other people, that we're unlovable and even unworthy of love. This distorted thinking is what enables the traits to survive and to get passed down to the next generation. This distorted thinking is addressed in step 2, where we simply come to believe that a higher power could bring us clarity. By the way, if you've taken step 1, then step 2 is already happening. In the third step, we're introduced to the solution to all 14 traits, self-love, and trust in a higher power. To learn more about the first 3 steps, please watch The Inner Child Steps Part 2. The next step, where this video picks up from the last, goes a long way towards bringing us the clarity promised in step 2. Step 4. We made a searching and blameless inventory of our parents because, in essence, we had become them. One of the basic tenets of the ACA program is that family dysfunction is passed down from one generation to the next. This is not done intentionally. It's simply the way it is. Hence, the blameless inventory. You can think of dysfunction as a virus which gets transmitted from person to person. The virus, you see, has a life of its own. Except, unlike a virus, dysfunction can be expressed in a variety of ways. The adult child may develop the same dysfunctional behavior patterns as the parents, or develop different patterns altogether. What's important to see is that dysfunction itself has been passed down. For example, the adult child of an alcoholic may become an alcoholic, or take on the traits of the codependent parent, or both, or become a workaholic, a compulsive gambler, a food addict, etc. These patterns, of course, represent unhealthy and dysfunctional relationships with things outside of ourselves. Alcoholism is a dysfunctional relationship with alcohol, codependency with other people, workaholism with work, overeating with food. These are, of course, all survival traits. On a deep unconscious level, both parent and child develop unhealthy coping mechanisms to deal with emotional wounds from their own childhood. And these emotional wounds are the foundation for para-alcoholism, which creates an unhealthy and dysfunctional relationship with myself. In this way, we have, in essence, become our parents. The inventory, therefore, is focused on the parents' traits, even their character defects. The point of it being blameless is because blaming serves no purpose. In fact, it can become an obstacle to remaining objective, which is a tall order to begin with, let's face it. However, if blame does slip in, don't blame yourself. Just do the best you can and move on. In either case, there's plenty of space to get angry, to grieve, and to blame in the next step. Step 5. We admitted to our higher power, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our childhood abandonment. This step centers on our experience, what was done to us as well as what was not done for us. In the STEPS workbook, we're asked to imagine what our childhood would have been had we been raised in a normal, healthy home with proper guidance, boundaries, emotional support, and nurturing. The difference between this ideal, which every child deserves, and what we got is considered our childhood loss or our childhood abandonment. These two terms are used interchangeably in ACA's literature. By the way, abandonment in ACA primarily means emotional abandonment. It includes physical abandonment when a parent is absent, because physical abandonment, generally speaking, is emotional abandonment. However, a parent can still be present and abandon the child emotionally. Any form of abuse, whether it's physical or verbal, would qualify. Also, any form of neglect. This includes ignoring the child, not paying attention to, such as when a parent is there but not there, when the child is made to feel invisible. It boils down to not giving proper love and nurturance. We're then asked to grieve this loss. You see, we didn't have the tools to do this as children, and one of the defense mechanisms we developed was to suppress our feelings. But they say that repressed grief does not go away. Instead, it comes out sideways in 100 different forms, i.e., as alcoholism, codependency, workaholism, etc. Properly grieving childhood loss is a big part of ACA recovery, and it's addressed in Step 5. This is where anger and blaming are not only acceptable, they're often necessary. Pete Walker, who writes about complex PTSD, recommends that people use anger as a tool to break through denial or to access repressed feelings. Imagining yelling at your parents, telling them, "How could you do that to an innocent child?" helps to prime the pump, as it were, to release more feelings. If you're angry, then something bad must have happened. This anger, by the way, is often from the inner teen, which taps into the grief of the inner child. After properly grieving, which is a process, you'll likely find the anger and blame will subside on their own, leading you to a natural state of blamelessness, which will extend back to yourself. How could I have been any different, considering my childhood conditioning? This is what forgiveness looks like. It's what self-love looks like, and you're only on Step 5. Admitting this, in particular to another person, makes it all real, and it breaks the number one rule of dysfunctional families, the don't talk rule. Recovery is happening. In the next step, we officially begin the healing process. And that wraps up this video, which is meant to be food for thought. If you got something out of it, please click like and subscribe and forward to a fellow traveler. I'm Robbie Bobby. Thank you for listening, and as always, keep coming back.